Imagine Baghdad in the year 800. It wasn't just a city. It was the world's center of gravity for science, philosophy, and innovation. Scholars from every faith flocked to its house of wisdom, translating and expanding upon the knowledge of the ancient world. This was the Islamic Golden Age, an era powered by a school of thought known like Mu'tazilism. At its core was a profound belief in reason and natural law, the idea that God created a universe with consistent, discoverable rules. This framework gave us figures like Al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra, and Ibn al-Haytham, the pioneer of the scientific method itself. They asked why, and sought answers in the world around them, confident that understanding creation was a way of understanding the Creator. This pursuit of knowledge wasn't just academic. It fueled a dynamic economy and a civilization that led the world. Then, in the 11th century, the intellectual engine began to stall. A powerful counter-movement, led by the influential theologian Al-Ghazali, took hold. This was Ash'arism, and its most radical idea was Occasionalism. It proposed that there are no natural laws, no cause and effect. A ball doesn't fall because of gravity. It falls because at every single instant God wills it to fall. Fire doesn't burn cotton because of a chemical reaction. It burns because God continuously creates the act of burning. This wasn't just a philosophical debate. It was a paradigm shift that fundamentally changed the most important question. The question was no longer why does this happen, but rather, how must I obey God's will? If the universe is a series of constant, direct divine miracles, what incentive is there to search for underlying principles? The very foundation for scientific inquiry was removed. This shift led to what historians call the closing of the gates of ijtihad, or independent reasoning. The intellectual energy that had once been channeled into discovering the mechanics of the cosmos was redirected inward, toward jurisprudence and theology, focusing on interpretation rather than discovery. The spirit of critical inquiry that had defined the Golden Age began to fade, while Europe was on the cusp of its own renaissance. Rediscovering the very Greek texts that Muslim scholars had preserved, much of the Islamic world was turning away from the philosophical tools needed to spark a similar revolution. The intellectual momentum was lost. Centuries later, when the Industrial Revolution swept across the globe, the consequences of this intellectual closure became starkly clear. The institutional and scientific frameworks needed to participate in this new age of steam, steel, and industry were simply not there. The gap that opened up then has, in many ways, defined the modern era. Today, as many nations in the Muslim world grapple with challenges of development, innovation, and progress, they are wrestling with the long shadow of this 11th century pivot. The struggle is not just economic or political. It is a deep, ongoing effort to reconcile faith with the scientific method, to reopen the gates of inquiry, and to reclaim the spirit of a golden age that once showed the world what was possible. The future depends on rediscovering the courage to once again ask why. Thanks for watching.